Hey guys, welcome to another lesson at Real Estate Steals, Deals, and Opportunities. Today, we are going to talk about due diligence. When buying real estate, we are typically given an inspection period in order to perform due diligence. So what does that look like to a real estate investor? If you are buying real estate as an investor, you could be buying any real estate, due diligence is important to you. But as a real estate investor, there's a few things we do a little differently. Let's talk about that today. So below are examples of the types of due diligence any real estate investor should perform. And we're going to talk about each one of these today, but this is a short list. There's the physical inspection, the actual physical condition of the home and what could possibly be wrong with it. Permit and work history research. We want to know, what work was done that was permitted and what work was done that was not. What's the history of this home? How recent was work done? That's good to know, right? An estimate of repairs. If we're real estate investors, we're going to want to repair this home or remodel this home to rent it or resell it. So that budget is going to matter to us. Title research. A lot of times real estate investors are buying foreclosures or homes that have been neglected for a while. And, sometimes they come with title issues as well. So what does that look like? A survey, what is that all about? And of course, for us real estate investors, we'd like to have some equity in the deal. We'd like the deal to cash flow, maybe if it's going to be a rental. And we want to know that if we're going to buy this thing, fix it up, and then sell it, that we'd like to have some profit in there too. So we're going to do some comparable sales study. Okay, so let's talk about each of these today. First of all, the physical inspections, and we've got a picture of the home here, kind of looking behind the scenes of everything that we would want to look at when it comes to inspecting the home. Now, again, this is just a short list. If the home has a garage or a pool or a furnace or, other things we're not even mentioning here, there's a lot that we're going to bring into the inspection report of the physical property, right? So we've got the roof, the condition of the roof, the age of the roof. That really matters if you're flipping this home. If you're keeping it as a rental, the fact that it's leak-free, that's wonderful. But if you're going to be reselling this home, the age of the roof really matters, because if you're getting toward the end of the life of the roof, it's going to be harder for your retail buyer to get insurance. The insurance might be more because you're getting to the age of the roof here, so there's more liability. And there's other reasons the lender might say, hey, we don't want to do this unless there's a new roof. So taking into consideration the cost of replacing that roof if you're at your life is important to know. And even if it's leak-free, okay? So the electrical, when was the last time the electrical was updated? Is it still on fuses? Is it on breakers? Is it enough amperage? And that's very important. Everything you're going to do to this home as a flipper, you're going to have to do it keeping that buyer's inspection in mind. So when the buyer comes to buy your home and they have their own inspection, their insurance and the lender's review of that is going to have a total bearing on them getting the loan and getting insurance and being able to afford the monthly payment that the lender is going to give them, plus the cost of the insurance. So that's really, your end goal has got to be kept in mind. It's not just let's go Band-Aid these things and, hey, what's our cheapest quote for this? It's always got to be geared toward getting that home sold quickly and not having problems in the end, because you're going to spend more money fixing something in the end than you are fixing it right to begin with. The plumbing, is it cast iron? Is it old? Is it, broken? Do we need to replace it with some PVC? And what's going on with the plumbing? Is it, up to code? What's, the water heater? Is it up to code? So sometimes you might have a working water heater, but it's years old and it doesn't have a pan under it anymore. It doesn't have a release valve, doesn't have a cutoff switch, or whatever the code might be in your area for that water heater. And you kind of overlook it. Everybody overlooks it because it's working. And so when you're having the home inspection done, it it really is worth it for you to spend the money on a home inspection, especially if you're new at this and you're not sure what to look for. Then you're going to want that input from an inspector, even if it costs a couple $100, because that's huge. It's valuable to you to know what you've got to repair, what you've got to bring to code, what you've got to replace in order to sell your home in the end. Okay. The AC, how old is that AC? A lot of insurance companies says if it's 12 years old, it's at its life. We won't even insure it anymore. So, it's really good to know these things. And maybe you want to sit down with your insurance person and say, hey, when you're giving a retail buyer, an end user, an owner occupant insurance, what does that look like? And how can I make sure that my house is done properly according to what insurance looks like, right? Windows and doors, are you going to have shutters? Are you going to have impact windows? Or you just want to make sure the windows are in working order and they all have screens? Okay, so what's missing there? The structure of the home, is it structurally sound? Are there anything that you need to notice about the structure? Anything you need to address there? Sometimes structural concerns and repairs can be significant in cost. And so if there was something that you found in the inspection period that really took your budget further than you needed it to be, well, then you're going to use that to go back and negotiate your purchase price, right? Appliances. I don't really worry about the appliances when I'm buying the home. They're all getting donated. I'm not keeping these. I'm going to put a brand new set in, so I don't even worry about the appliances. But now if the appliances look nice and they're clean and I'm buying this property for a rental, well, then I do care about the appliances. I want them to work. If I don't have to spend money replacing the appliances, the sooner I can get into a cash flow situation as a rental. All right, so there's a lot to take into consideration in your physical inspections when it comes to the budget that you're preparing in order to get this property ready to rent or to sell. And then, of course, there's the attic and the basement and what those two places carry with it, insulation and ductwork and rodents. We didn't even talk about termites, these kind of things. So, there's a lot to consider when it comes to the physical inspection of a property. So you're going to want to take all that into consideration. Again, when you're going to retail a home, termites and those types of things matter. In Florida, we have termites. I'm not sure where you are, but whatever that thing is people don't want in your area, you're going to want that inspected. So I know that a termite report, a clear termite report, has a huge bearing on the resale of my property. So that's something I find out at the very beginning of my deal, and I have at the house tented if need be before I start any work on the house. Because, when we put the tent over the house, it dirties the paint job, it kills the plants that we've planted up close to the home. So I don't want to do that after. I need to know this in advance so that I get it done right away and it's over with. Now I've got my clear report. I've got a termite bond I can hand to a buyer and they can just renew it every year. So there's a lot of peace of mind that I like to hand my buyer, that all of these things have been replaced. All of these things are new. Here's your permit history. The work was done properly. I sell them peace of mind as well as a nice house, right? So take all these things into consideration and more in your due diligence period. So let's talk about the permit and the work history here. Your closing agents will typically do what's called a lien search, and you can ask them, please do a permit search as well. There's a lot of controversy in what clear title is, and and really it's marketable title. So if I have a code violation, as long as there's not a fine associated, I still may have clear title. So you're going to want to make sure during your due diligence period that you understand what marketable title is as far as your contract goes, and if you're going to have the right to reject closing on the property if there is a code violation, if there is an open permit or such, or expired permit. These things don't necessarily affect title and can fall on you as the problem as the new buyer. So if you're prepared for that, you understand that, you know how to deal with it, that's one thing. But if you don't, then you're certainly going to want to make sure that this is addressed during your due diligence period, right? When you have the right to cancel or bring something to the seller's attention and say, I don't want this problem, I want you to fix it. Or I want you to compensate me by reducing the price so that it's worth it for me to take care of it. So that municipality search can sometimes be done online. Again, it depends on where the property is located. And so for the most part, where I'm located, I can do a lot of these searches online. I can say, hey, in this home, it looks like there's a new water heater and there's a new AC and there's all these new things. Wonderful. But then I go do a search and there was not a permit pulled for any of these things. So I don't know that the work was done properly into code. So I'm going to have more pressure on my inspector, right? And even on my contractor to go through and say, hey, do these things look like they're done to code to you? I love to sell something that's new and show that a permit was pulled to do it, because it gives that peace of mind that I talk about. There's a lot of investors that, don't want to spend the money to do that. Whether they will do the work to code, I don't know. But, that's your decision, whether you're going to do the work that way or not. But if a permit is still open and it was never closed out on something that was done, maybe I'm going to take care of that and I don't mind, or maybe I want to put that back on the seller to do. But these things need to come up during the inspection period and, use it in your favor to negotiate, or at least to know that this is something additional you're going to need to add to your budget that you're taking on as part of your problem. And the reason I'm bringing this up is because when you're buying investment real estate, things that are foreclosures, things that have been rigged and repaired with Band-Aids, these are the kind of things you're going to find and you're going to want to deal with and address while you own the home. All right, so your estimate of work is going to be huge. So when we're buying a home, we've kind of walked through it as an investor and we think, wow, my budget's $20,000. It looks like I'm going to be within my $20,000 budget. But you're in and out of that house in 10 minutes. You're not really sure. But then you go through your due diligence and you get back your inspection report. You send your contractor over with you and you walk through it, right? And you say, hey, between all of this information we just gathered now, my budget, there's no way I can do all this in $20,000. I didn't realize this. I didn't see this. I didn't notice this. But because I sent the professionals in and I paid them to spend the hours to really do the work and look in this home well, I find that my budget's really $30,000 or $35,000. How is that going to affect my deal? Am I still paying a good price for it, or do I need to try and renegotiate, or do I need to not do as much work to the house as I had planned? How am I going to make adjustments so that I can keep this deal together, right? And so I love this picture here where the contractor is showing me my bid is a lot, okay? Because it's never what we think it is, right? I can't tell you how many people send me houses they want me to buy, and every one of them says the work budget is $10,000, $10,000. I look at the picture of the front yard and I'm already spending $10,000. I didn't even see the interior photos yet. So very unrealistic prices are thrown at you all the time in this business. And if you don't do your own due diligence, you're going to lose money all the time. All right. So your inspections and your bids and then reworking those is a big part of your due diligence period. You want to know by the end of your inspection period, when you have to say, yes, I'm in this deal, or no, I'm backing out, that you really know that you have a deal. All right. Otherwise, you're going to pass on this deal. You're going to say, no, I have to buy it for this price, or I have to walk. And that's the way you've got to do business, because we're doing business. We're not making emotional decisions here. When you are buying a home to live in, you can become very emotional about it, and you can pay a price that's really too much to pay based on the work that it needs. But you want that house so badly. And so we make emotional decisions, and it's those decisions that cost us money. All right. Title research. So it's not just about the physical condition of the home and we're paying the right price, but is there a title problem? Is there a lien? Is there something in the history of this property that's going to attach to me now that I'm going to have to address? This could also be another issue that I would want to pay less for the home in order to deal with this title problem, because I've got to clear it up during my ownership in order to sell it with clear title to my end buyer. Again, we're buying properties with problems. I always tell my students, when you buy a property in this business, right, if you want to make the big money, then you're buying a property with problems, a property with title problems, and a property with sellers who have problems, right? So you're clearing up all kinds of issues, and that's why you're getting a good deal. So is the deal good enough to compensate you for all these issues? And so title problems could be some old lien that has to be dealt with, some code violation with a fine attached that has to be dealt with, and then a reduction of the fine dealt with. And, what does clear title mean in your area? right? What is clear and marketable title? So without that, you've got to cure it, or you're going to have to find a cash buyer on your other end who doesn't need that title to be clear as well. And if you have to do that, price is what's going to sell the deal. So you have to get a reduced price in order to sell it at a reduced price again. So no exceptions, right? We don't want any exceptions on our title, because that's how we make it clear, and then anyone can buy it from us. So please don't do your title work on your own. Again, this is where you want to bring in professionals who are going to look at your title, just like a professional is going to look at the inspection of your property and give you the right report. A survey. Now, a lot of investors forego a survey. I do not. For $350, buy the survey, know what you're getting, right? Because when you have a survey, then you have no title exception, right? If you buy a home without a survey, there's going to be an exception on your title policy accepting what would have been found in a survey. So let's say you go to sell that property again a few months later, and now that buyer gets a survey because they have to. Their lender will require it unless they're cash. And then the survey comes back and, hey, there's an encroachment, or there's a setback, or the neighbor's fence is actually 2 inches into your yard. There's an existing compliance issue or building and zoning issue, right? You didn't get a $350 survey that you could have known about this in advance, dealt with it, already had that neighbor's fence moved and dealt with, put it on the seller to deal with, but you didn't. Okay, so you're going to pay a bigger price now in time. It costs you more than $350 a day to own the home that you're selling, right? So this is where a lot of people step over pennies to save dollars, step over dollars to save pennies, right? So now you have an issue that has to be dealt with, and it's going to delay things. You could even lose your buyer over a delay, all right? So get the survey. My recommendation, get your survey, know what you're dealing with. If you have to pull permits for central AC or anything that will be installed on the exterior of the property, you're going to need the survey anyway. So why delay things then? When you don't own the home, you could be buying that survey. Once you close on it, the survey's in your hands. You're not wasting time or money. You've got the survey to hand to people. And then you've got the survey to actually show people when they buy it a few months later, hey, here's the survey. You're thinking about adding a pool, putting up a fence, here's a survey, so that you can have your own due diligence done and feel comfortable moving forward with my home. So as a last little note, if you have a recent survey, then your buyer can just update the survey into their name, and it saves them money as well. Okay, so I recommend the survey. Again, I'm big on due diligence. If it's only $350 for me to find out all these unknowns that could hurt me or help me, I want to know them before I ever own the home, right? Okay, so let's move on to our comparable sales research. Now, this was our last bullet point that we were going to talk about today, but as you can hear from all of this information, there's a lot to consider in your due diligence period. And for us real estate investors, it's really about the numbers. We're not moving in, so the school district for our kids doesn't matter as much to us. We're making a financial business decision here. We want to profit. Either we want to have a nice return on our investment as a rental, or we want to have a nice profit after we buy it, fix it, and sell it, right? So the more due diligence we can perform before we ever buy that home, the better off we will be. We will be closer to our budget. We will be more on time with our time frame for getting it back on the market, and we will be more likely to make money. So what do our comps look like? Are the rental comps strong? What did this house rent for? Beds and baths, what does it rent for? I love to look at all the photos, not just the numbers, but I want to see the photos. I want to see what buyers or renters in this neighborhood are looking at when they're coming to look at mine. What's my competition look like? And how is mine going to appeal to them more or better so that I rented sooner or I rented for more? Is there nothing on the market in that neighborhood? It's a hot neighborhood because of the school zone or because of a certain thing. What's going to help my home sell faster? Okay, here's an example. I looked at a home recently, and the trend, it was really wild, but I like to look at trends. I like to look at design sites. Actually, it has nothing to do with real estate, but they're showing you how to redo your living room and your kitchen, and it's always what's trending, and I like to follow the trend. So if I'm looking at the photos of all the other homes that are available, what I noticed recently with an investor who bought one of my flips they bought it to fix it up and sell it. So it was an as-is deal. And I spoke to her today. She's doing phenomenally well on the resale of it. But the thing was this. When we looked at all of the comps, the homes that sold for more money and the quickest had something in the backyard, had some type of outdoor living space, even if it was just this tent gazebo thing with a plastic patio set underneath it. So I happen to have a ton of pavers on my property, and I told her, listen, I'll give you a few hundred square feet of pavers. You can make a little walkway, a 10 by 10 slab, and, do the same thing in your backyard. And so, she was like, oh, great idea. That's what I'm going to do. So we stuck with the trend, and we priced out her home to sell around 165, and she's got a contract for 180. And that's phenomenal. So our trend in this neighborhood is that the prices are going up. So you see this picture here. If we can see a trend, then we're even doing better than we thought, because we're buying the home right now based on an end value of what it would sell today. And if that makes us money, wonderful. But if we don't go to the market for 90 more days, the trend is that we should be able to sell it for even a little bit more. So the big plus in that is that if we end up going over budget a little bit, or finding out something else we have to spend, or we get a delay in a renovation, we're kind of going to get compensated for it because the trend is increasing in this neighborhood. So that's good to know. It gives us a little bit of cushion, but it's certainly not something we should hang our hat on ever, because anything can happen, and then boom, the trend suddenly is going the other direction. All right, so time is not on our side. We want to be boom, 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 in and out of these projects. All right, so our comparable sales research and rent research will give us a lot of our data to know if we as real estate investors are actually going to be making money with this deal. And then we stay in that deal based on that, or we renegotiate based on that. All right, so how does all of this help? I kind of wrapped that up there. When you take all of the due diligence into consideration, then you can determine if you are buying what you expected, right? When you first looked at that home, is it still what you expected, or is there a lot more work that you didn't realize until after your due diligence was going to need to be done? Are you still going to be able to renovate and rent or flip this home at the budget and time frame that you expected when you made that first offer? And if not, do you need to reduce that price accordingly? So ultimately, are you paying the price you want to pay for this home based on all of that due diligence? So, getting a long due diligence period is a major plus, because it gives you the time to gather all the data that you need. A new real estate investor might need a lot of time, because you don't necessarily have the professionals in your network to call on right now to give you all that data right away. But a savvy investor can gather all their data within a matter of a couple of days, and even get it done before they make the offer. And so if you're making offers with 15-day inspection periods against savvy investors who are making offers with 1 or 2 or 0-day inspections because they've just got it together that well, then it's going to be much harder for you to buy some homes. So you're going to want to practice your due diligence, and you're going to want to start to gather your professionals right now together and have them ready to go. So when you do have a deal that you can look at and potentially make an offer on, you can start to gather information in advance and get ahead of that time frame, so you could start making offers with a reduced time frame as well. I'm not saying forego any due diligence, but as you get more and more savvy and you've got crews running and you need to make deals, you will start eventually making deals just really walking through the house. I mean, we are in such a competitive, hot market here in South Florida. I have to make deals off of photos. Sometimes I don't even get the liberty of going to the home and walking through it. So I am doing all my due diligence from the computer, and I'm committing to a deal with very little due diligence time. And I'm going to have to make sure that my budget has a cushion in it for what I can't see and can't accomplish, like I've taught you today. But in a perfect world, I want to accomplish everything that I've shown you today and more. So after pulling all of this together, is it deal or no deal? Are you buying it or not? So that's where it's your decision, and you're going to have to use that information to make that decision. So guys, if I can help you in the South Florida area, then please email me, get on my list. I'd love to help you pick up your next investment property if I can. Email me at SharonR@32westrealty.com. Otherwise, I hope you enjoyed what you learned today about due diligence and that it helps you make a smarter decision on your next purchase. And if you did like that, then please join us to learn more about real estate investing and other amazing topics online via live interactive video conference classes at learnfromgreen.com. When you increase your knowledge, you increase your income. Thanks for tuning in today.